Hello, this is Andrew with My Million Dot Bike, and this is a recap for the 2023 Turkey Burner, the 50K edition. This was my third Turkey Burner and my third race for this year. I had hoped that the 100K would be in the cards, but with the ongoing stuff in my back, it just didn't seem like a good idea. I've been trying to get better at listening to my body, and it doesn't seem to be getting the message that it's go time. That said, it was awesome to get out and ride any distance, and it was the perfect day for the race. I put the full race video up on YouTube a few days ago. I will include a link in the description if you're interested. It's crazy. Last year, we had arguably the worst conditions you can have for a race. It was definitely the worst conditions I've ever ridden a bike in. This year, total opposite. High 40s at the start, high 50s at the end, almost no wind. It was awesome. I wish that I had planned my wardrobe a little bit differently, but that's a white wine. For early November, it is the best we could hope for. I'm getting ahead of myself. Before talking about the race, I want to hit a couple things first. Big thanks to the Big River Gravel Series for putting it on. It's been great to watch them get better at this. Every event shows more polish than the last one. It's clear that a lot of work is going into making their races great events, and they nailed it. We can see an example of that in the improvements in venue year on year. Even if the weather wasn't awesome, they had it covered. The race started and ended at Whispering Pines Shelter in Scott County Park. Calling it a shelter seems oddly modest. It was a fully enclosed building. They had a fire, there was plenty of seating inside. It was great that we didn't need it, but you never know with the weather in November. It could have been snowing. Actually, I think it may have done a few days earlier. We got about an inch in Chicago. There was coffee before the race, pizza and beer after, some live music, and a few up-and-coming gravel racers milling about. Last thing before getting to the race, I enjoy that there is space in these kinds of gravel events for everyone, and for everyone to get celebrated. There were young riders, older riders, some families, and the whole spectrum of fitness. I don't know how old this young man is, but he was out there and he crushed it. There was applause for everyone who crossed the line and smiles all around. As much as I enjoy the racing part, I also get value from the after racing part, where we all get a chance to meet each other, see friends we made at the last event, and make some new ones. It's also fantastic to see everyone out there to ride bikes at all levels. It was great to talk to some of them after about why they came out and their experience. For example, I met a father and his maybe early teenage daughter who had driven out from the western suburbs of Chicago. They had a great day out on the course. It was nice to talk to them and listen to them tell their race story. I really enjoyed it. Okay, enough sappy stuff. Let's get to the race. I did a few things wrong, although that might not be the best way to frame it. One was that I didn't taper or really change my intensity volume mix, except for doing some openers instead of going on the coffee ride I usually do on Friday morning. That might seem strange, but the goal, or at least my thinking around it, was that for the long term, my target is to get my fitness back. I've only been really able to get at it for about 2 months, so there's a lot of ground left to cover. Racing 50K is going to dump a lot of intensity into my training mix, but the event isn't long enough to be a real endurance effort. So while I knew there were going to be some trade-offs around that choice, I tried to focus on the long-term goal. That probably cost me in the selection where I got popped, but I'm getting ahead of myself again. Before the race, we had a quick debrief. The organizer made a point to remind us about the caution areas, including a bit at the beginning of the final section of the course. I appreciated it. No one wants to end up in the trees or get hit by a car. Started with a neutral rollout, which in my opinion is the right way to do these things. It gets everyone away from the traffic, it allows groups to align better, and it reduces the drive you see in some races to do stupid things when lining up and launching the race. And then it was on, like right away, straight into a punchy rise, which was great. I know I mentioned how important early course design is in a race, in most of these. This was perfect because it was enough to create a selection. A couple guys made an attempt. I don't know how legit it was, but I didn't think they were going to get away, definitely not on pavement. So when the opportunity to draft a mountain presented itself, I jumped on board. I didn't get a chance to meet the mountain after the race, but thank you. It's not very often I get to do 30 miles an hour at 100 watts. Then I surfed another wheel and we caught them. Then I made the first mistake. I forget that I am not the rider I was a year ago. I try to remember to let others do the covering and be smart and catch the wheels. I did not do that, and when the next big attack went, I got sucked in and towed the line back to them. That was a match I did not need to burn 4.5 miles in. It was around mile 5 when I discovered that there was something wrong with my Garmin and the way it was displaying the route. I started messing with it. I get a little OCD at times. That was the worst time I could have been messing with it, because that was when the next big selection happened. It was always going to be that way. By the time I figured out what was happening, it was too late to fix it with position. I tried to fix it with watts. That didn't work. In a fortuitous turn of events, Aaron, the guy who won the race, did exactly the right thing and caught me on his GoPro as I was messing around. He did a video too. I will put a link in the description to it. If you want to see what to do instead of what not to do, go have a watch of his video. Thought I might be able to catch them on the downhill and flat before the next hill, and actually did make it just in time to hit the bottom of the next hill, but I didn't have it and I got popped from the front group. I'm not totally sure what the right thing to do is in that situation. When I get popped and I'm not around a bunch of other people, I generally just try to ride tempo and hope that a fast group picks me up from the back. It took a while, but that's exactly what happened. It was a little strange though, maybe because I was their rabbit and once they caught me, the chase was over. But there were a few times when I found the pace at this stage in the race to be frustrating. We would be coasting the hills and not whittling the group. Some of that is totally selfish. I am not a sprinter. I do not want to keep the sprinters in the group. I want them to work on the hills. The other part is that I like hills and I love rollers. If I'm coasting a roller, something isn't right. So I put in some efforts. We ended up catching one of the guys who made the selection where I got popped around 12.6 miles in. He ended up riding with us the rest of the race. Nice guy, very strong. That made me feel a little better about what happened earlier. Although I felt a lot better after watching Aaron's video. He put some numbers out there, and even if I had made that selection, it would not have changed the outcome. I probably would have just delayed the popping. It was shortly after that, I think the group got whittled down to the 5 or 6 guys I would do the rest of the ride with. It was a punchy course, all up and down, so much fun. With the group set, we pretty much just got to it. Mostly a decent pace, most everyone doing some work at the front, but it became clear that everyone was riding defensively, keeping their pull short, not going too deep, and it makes sense. Most of the guys appeared to be also in the 45 plus age category and probably knew the score. Every so often, if someone put in what I felt was a long pull where they might be vulnerable, I put in a dig to feel it out. Nothing crazy though, because I was also trying to ride defensively. I don't think any of that worked in the moment. The group was big enough and fit enough and everyone covered. And when someone else did that to me, it was no different. But gravel is very much a game of attrition, so who knows? We pretty much played that cagey game of attrition for the rest of the race. A friend likes to remind me that the last time I had to sprint in a race, I lost to a guy with a flat tire. And unfortunately, that is true. I did not want to leave it to a sprint. So when we got to the final pavement section and the pace slowed, I put in another feeler, but the group was equal to it. We rode the last few miles before the single track together with only a little drama. One of the guys must have had the same idea that I had, and he put in an effort. I knew the single track was coming. There was a sketchy bit at the front, and I wanted to be the second wheel in. So I made sure to cover that and stick in. The whole course was fantastic. Most gravel races are a mix of type 1 and type 2 fun when it comes to the course. This race was all type 1, and the single track was the highlight. I made sure to give the guy in front some space when we came down the descent into the mountain bike course. I like being able to have someone else feel out the line for me so I can see what they're doing right or what they're doing wrong. Luke had warned us I didn't want to hit the trees. Once we were through that, it was time to put in another dig. I might have mentioned that I did not want to sprint it out, and I ended up doing a minute at a little over 400 watts to get a gap, then focusing on keeping the numbers up where I could safely do so to stay away. I kept looking back whenever I hit a straight section, expecting that they would be right behind me, just like every other time. But there were a lot of turns in the final section, so it was hard to know what was going on. And I was really happy that Luke put in the signs. It just kept going. Every time I thought I was done, there was another turn, which made it impossible to see if there was another rider coming up. Fortunately, I stayed away, and I ended up getting third in my race and 6th overall. I am pleased with that. So what did I learn? The most important thing is to not fiddle with my Garmin in critical moments. But the reason I was fiddling with my Garmin is that there was something going weird with the route cues. That might have been because I am running a beta firmware on it, or it might be for other reasons. Sometimes it just gets confused. The reason why I felt the need to fiddle with it is that I am totally reliant on it for the critical moment cues. I always make a copy of the official route and put in things like watch for attacks, leading into the hills where attacks are more likely. Putting all my trust in technology for that might not be the best strategy. I think for the next race, I'm going to make a cheat sheet and tape it to my stem or the top tube bag. It will be easier to read in bright sunlight as well. One might be tempted to take away that maybe it's not a great idea to run beta firmware on the head unit you're going to race with. That's not a lesson I want to learn. I am not going to change my behavior there. The next thing is that I should have taken the opportunity to pre-ride the final section. It would have helped with the sketchy bit. It would have helped with the whole thing. Having ridden it once or twice when I got there would have made a massive difference in knowing how to pace it, and it would have made me faster in it because I wouldn't have had to figure out the right line on the fly. I got that wrong a few times. The last one I have mixed feelings about. I probably would have had enough in the tank to either stay with the group on that hill where I was messing around with my Garmin or latch onto the back when I caught them if I had done something more tapery in the week leading up to the event. Mixed feelings because standings wise, there's no chance that me getting popped when I got popped influenced my result. The guys who took 1 and 2 in my race were the guys doing the popping. Even if I had ridden a smarter race and tapered beforehand, they were stronger and faster than me. I wasn't going to beat them. More importantly, not tapering and layering race training on top of that probably turned out to be the right thing for the larger goal, improving my fitness. Today I moved 1 point closer to my VO2 max from a year ago. Would that have happened anyway? I don't know. That's one of the hard things about having a sample of 1 and not being able to run repeated tests. It happened though, and I'm pleased with that too. This was the last race I had on the calendar for the year. It was great to get a good result. It was better to be able to get out there. Ride the course, make new friends, drink a beer or two with old friends, celebrate riding bikes, celebrate gravel, celebrate the people at the pointy end and everyone else, including apparently people with beards. I am looking forward to next year. Hopefully it goes a little better than the last one. Definitely will be signing up for the Big River Gravel Series and probably a few other races in another Iowa Gravel Series a little bit farther west. I hope to see you all there. I hope you found that useful. If you did, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below and I will get to them as soon as I can. Thanks.